Thursday and Friday to get here. This tournament is about these two and these three people back here. It's not about you. During prep time, you will be quiet. You will give them the best opportunity possible to do that. You understand? Because the only 5 people that need to be in here are these two and these 3. That's it. The rest of you don't need to be in here. So you give them the respect that they deserve, because if not, I will come in here and I will clear this room. You understand? So, help them out. You guys ready to go?
No pressure, guys.
Did you practice that sleep in the mirror?
I try to not look at myself in the mirror as much as possible. Because then I know what other people feel like.
It's a mustache.
Yeah, it is.
I said it.
Okay. We all good? All right. Good luck. Let's have a good round. Oh, one last thing. They will be announcing the decision. So, because where the award assembly is going to be and everything else, so know that. Okay? So, good luck.
Until you sent it.
Let me know when everybody's good.
Let me just say I'm tired, so err on the side of more explanation over more arguments.
Is everybody good?
Wait, mine's not downloading. Give me a second. Okay, so. I'm good.
Everybody's good?
Yeah.
Welcome to the party. In this space and elsewhere, power RP solved by exclusion, but by incorporation and capture. This is a machine known as faciality, mode of coding, which includes all bodies and spheres recognition, but in wholly differential ways. Tradition conceives races as scale of white and non-white. You should set understand as a circle and ideally space the center, giving face the log on circumference. Dyadic understanding of subject cannot account for the proliferation of identities within the faciality machine, ensuring the reproduction of control, white and shape itself, redefining what it means to be white or black or yellow through which continues maintaining connections that accept or deny expression of connections solved on 07. Machines are ensembles of connections are productive by virtue of their concerted work, but felt by virtue of dimensional virtue machines succeeding expanding through channeling the many constituent elements. Social machines are material information resulting from coding, intoxication, pain, interaction, states, bodies, balloon, becoming informed power geometries, capital states, real phrase. This machine for integration components, machine examples, races, movement that integrates racer teams, affinity, Microsoft differences that produce distinctions in everyday life. This touch that geometry looks up so hard in tens of thousands of years. The mysterization producing local techniques, different races, not something tried upon bodies, but a vertical disciplining and charging of bodies, race formations, to the corporeal habits, connections, the environment, the body's naturally engaging, gross, not solacing inequality versus two dancers, or geographies, physical characteristics of bodies are made to matter. Smoking, ecstasy, side trans, racial differences, tangential, not dialectical bodies become physics, holding together, in fact, can be affected. Egalitarian notion of recognition, tree, white, and non-white, naturally opposed, little attention paid, how racial formations, virtual, material conditions, faciality, arranges bodies into relations of power, constantly events, new faces to capture your body's bound in binaries. If the face is white man, the first deviance is racial and trapped in the white wall, identification distributed by the black hole subject could be racism, operates by diffusive deviance in relation to the white man face, sometimes solving them, sometimes risking there is no exterior the faciality machine places all bodies in relation to the standard present acceptability of the machine, territorialization. Think about identity through the material examples like the U.S. colonizing America, which required land reaping and selling of bodies and the interactions of indigenous people and slaves had, then slavery to free market labor, which was when immigration came, which expanded the land as well. These are ways in which identities were in constant flux and instability influencing one another. The body is an ephemeral entity, a machine that exists only in the event in its moment of connection with other bodies and specific affects and enables the faciality machine orients and regulates the effective relation between bodies. Affect is intense between bodies that augments the capacity to act and power to be effective, generates lines of flight towards alternative experiences that can escape the faciality machine. Heart 14. The sovereign subject embeds itself when moved by external forces. Most powerful is not legally effective, but the more you effective, the more alive you are. Power to be effective, opens alternative route for other activity. Instead of enjoying yourself, take control, increase the extent of ways in which you can be effective. We are all able to engage our passions, expand the scope, passions, to limit to a field of bodies and pleasure, increasing your power to be effective, multiply your potential to spiritual encounters. Now use this scouting effectively to invest in new possibilities for 1,000 tiny races. A white woman tripping on S and Asian boy and dragon, instead of enabling the psychic relentlessly lock and libido charged with the body senses. We must utilize these moments to rupture formed by new effective connections. People are facialized by the material commingling with pieces, people and things. Each interaction is a site of potential to disrupt this world of and synergistic to correct the faciality machine sold on to two. Every time phenotype makes a machine connection, there is a solder. Every time bodies are recharged and segregation, there needs to be an effective investment. This is a rupture moment to interview race. Energy tracking, multiplying racial differences, random joyful cacophonic, the molecularization of between 2,000 tiny races, the pleasure crossing, encountering corporal fragments, attacks on the steel choke around a minute, suit of the ring, and the puncture nipple of the delivery, and disorder in the quarter code of crowds builds upon a gradual sense of corporal difference. Activism fall only from understanding the differential existence between many different bodies. White supremacy can subside only by changing the rules. 1,000 tiny races, maybe only if racism is mature sees events. Now the question: what can a white body do? Can escape the regimes of church school, reaching the army by changing our effective relations? Our arguments that our bodies contain in themselves a possibility for radical transformation. transformation relying on lenses discovered through psychedelics, not just LSD, but dance, music, and drugs. Let's say from the illegal use of drugs not to be treated as a matter of public health, not a criminal justice. Psychedelics is a reconstitution of what it means to be a race. Our method aims at breaking through the confines of oneness by dissipation of the body into subracial, subhuman, and cosmic flows of energy, which determine our effective relations. The method of the one understands race's phenotype and seeks to destroy the socio-chemical monitoring that races, bodies, and black, white, evil, are pure by experimenting at the molecular level. Solid on 3. Psychedelics is an unraveling from within the moral cement. This event that defines why bourgeoisie, hallucinogenic drugs, and ethical practice relation to one's body in the world. We know nothing about a body, so we know what it can do, what its affects are. Bodies composed of an infinite number of particles, relation, emotion, rest, define the individuality of a body. Psychedelics is used as drugs, sex, dance, to transform oneself. Psychedelics, insofar as they derive far from what's excluded from modern rationality of subversive project of breaking loose the self and psychedelics is a state of mind that creates the hallucinogenic ways in which the psychedelic body opens up to its surroundings through instrumental to the advocacy about mind, mind mastering matter. Psychedelics enterprise novel ways of dressing, making music, having sex, praying, eating, and art. Psychedelics and ethical commitment to overcome the material and geographic body being shaped. The psychedelic self is pure for the social, rather place around the environment. White lines of fight told on a continuous ethics to relationship of body has with self proposition, what a body can do, drugs and vehicles for getting out of your conventional place, freaking one's racial body raise this issue, social marginality and transcendence, freaking out of psychedelic countercultural experimentation with what a white body can do, free fall lines fight trying to hold together white modernity, and this proliferation of racial difference capable of freaking whiteness reflects a process of becoming which refuses to see creativity, forces domination, reclamation, difference is joyful, is capable of creating an effective relation to a great compound by hegemonic identitarian category. Result on 4. Psychedelics is whiteness, accelerating whiteness, studying freak like refuse identity politics, inclusion, exclusion, freaks is what our freaking would grasp its on the fight for a future where pale bodies have no privileged access to culture, copper, freaking self-critical, the face shot machine finds it difficult to take hold of bodies, not that everyone becomes similar, and breaks purpose and becomes obsolete, as other racial operations harbor the same creativity. He needs creativity against the self-multiplication of race and new, anti-white normal culture. The free creativity is why racial formation can be used against white supremacy. Whiteness is public health issue. We affirm that drugs are used no matter of social justice and public health, both in the use of psychedelics and freak whiteness and the way ways of race machine determines what a drug use looks like. Harvard Public Health Review, the killings of Tamara, Michael Barton, Eric Garner, many other black Americans, racism, driven health inequities among marginalized populations, extraordinarily disparate compared to whites too. Inequities, environment exposures, diseases occur at substantially higher rates of world-based and black holes undeniable. As a responsibility to public health, social justice is central to through discourse and reform. The criminal justice system is the ultimate manifestation of the face on humor subjectivity goes to die, literally sorting out bodies, marking them according to their relation to dominant facial signifier. The effective relation between the drug user and the jealous is one that brands them as irreconcilably subhuman. McCormick go for the faces of marker, the human facial signifiers replace ethical consideration to real body. The choice of face creates a jurisdictional acceptance of the political state of affairs. A jury better not guilty 200 years of connotation. Faciality for complexion of the other in machine, majority change stratification, aboriginal space of the zero potential, the juxtaposition between sour smiling face and the rabbit face from the aboriginal police follows extreme. The racial and the other face of criminal faces. This is the condition. They are minoritarian and irreconcilably so. The majoritarian facial machine were orchestrating everything responsible for nothing. The images will sacrifice and sacrifice to one subject to by their own criminality. Not the unreversed. All our classifications, case theoretical, should say what the role that can change. Theoretical education does not operate differently. It's about value. One structures Q. If the naked effort that puts me 7 4 times, it makes it impossible to win even with an order. Crossfire case prevents moving 6 minutes. AC return to base. When they couldn't contest case penalty, I can still crossfire 2 since they operate independently. Second, is reasonably with a Brandland Lincoln effect and grounded sexually from the resolution. Brandland is not arbitrary since it works hard work and punish people don't you forever. Because there's always potentially fair version of the apple. Chris mathematics allows a gateway to mitigate rates of top default in theory. Very much a future purpose debate. Third, many could have view policy against counterproductive policy exchange, make radical change possible. Data must defend that precedent from the pedagogical pragmatic value, not say politics. If the after 17, the critique will not be a possible better fear. There's some top versions of the obvious assuming the practical politics occur. Do the state from this movement, for example, called from backlash and state action versus taking on intermediate change forms evidence favor of field, assuming training engagement politics field after the way from magic harm we don't replace much less with political actors. Fourth, has mysterious structures, political and social situations bodies that considered performing outside this constitutional system domination, which reinforces the sad act and eradicate truly dangerous power becoming corner. 12% adequate to blackness ontology, think of blackness become a transformed relation of blackness, history and exclusion and construction ontology, which is blackness historical condition, eradicates transform first. What history counts to the events of experience with the events of coming safe history, the study of social identified news, force radically autonomy from existing ontology and historical accounts, society's machine forces consider new assumptions structural, pretty subject to they cannot think in terms of movement. I cut corner in movement.
Gotcha.
I'm good for this.
I don't know. Okay. To what extent does the one defend the resolution? I.e., do you defend government action or implementation?
I defend implementation. I don't defend that the government should pass
How
policy.
do you implement the 1AC?
So the argument is that we implement the 1AC in that we make the argument that drugs should be treated as a matter of public health, so people should view drugs via the lens of
So
public
does
health.
implementation happen within the scope of this room, or are you just endorsing a value
It
statement?
is an argument that it would be good if people engaged in an understanding of drugs as
what
public
is
health.
faciality?
Faciality is a machine that incorporates people within it.
Okay,
It is a way that we structure
where does
race relations that designates people in relation to the dominant face, i.e. white man.
Okay, where does faciality occur?
Well, the faciality machine isn't like a literal machine.
No,
It's
I
like,
understand.
It
In what
happens
spaces does
like
faciality
everywhere.
occur?
The argument is that relationality is the relation that I have to like the floor, space, technology,
you
people.
endorse
Like
using
it is literally
drugs
everywhere.
and psychedelics as a method of freaking whiteness. Why is it good to freak whiteness?
So that would be the Saldana 3 and Saldana 4.
What's the warrant?
Reread them. Yeah, so the warrant is that psychedelics is an instance in which whiteness breaks apart from the traditional conceptions, i.e. when someone takes
What is
LSD, they're
whiteness?
engaging in a method. So whiteness is a semiotic structure that designates meaning based off of its relation to paler skin.
Okay, the one I see endorses sort of like a diversification that breaks down faciality. How does engaging in psychedelics destroy or alter the process of interpolating race onto
So
someone else.
I would disagree with that characterization. I do not think it is a question of diversification. Rather, it is a question of nullifying what it means to be a particular race at all,
Okay, what's a
destroying
race?
the charging of phenotypes in the first place.
What's a race?
So a race is something that is given to bodies, i.e. something that is charged, like bodies are charged to believe that they belong to a particular
Okay,
race. Race has a phenotypic
are
aspect
there
as well as a
some-
machinic
Are
aspect.
there some like machinic or phenotypical aspects of being a person or beingness that are static and unchanged?
Obviously not. The
There's
argument is that
there's-
subjectivity is fluid.
the
Like,
sub- all
phenotype.
subjectivity
So,
fluid?
so phenotype itself does not contain any meaning, right? Just like genes don't mean anything. Someone's skin doesn't necessarily
Okay,
mean
is
something.
all
Rather, it's
subjectivity
charged
fluid?
to mean a
Is
given
all
thing, which is
subjectivity
fluid. The argument is not that all subjectivity is
You just
fluid.
said that.
The question, yes, sure.
Okay. You said that you endorse psychedelics. What is psychedelics?
I endorse that the illegal use of drugs ought to be treated.
I get you, but like the method is psychedelics. What are psychedelics?
So psychedelics are things like LSD, dance, music, and drugs. They're ways of
Why are those things
escaping
good? Where do
one's
those things come
recreational
from?
embodiment.
Where do those things come from?
Like the lab, where do they make LSD? Are you asking?
No. Like
Someone's
where?
basement.
Like why are those things like good or pedagogically valuable to endorse?
Well, we don't think it's like educationally valuable to like take acid. Our argument is that the method of using psychedelics is something that freaks one's position, which is like a moment of rupture that
What
generates
does it
lines
mean
of
to
flight.
like have your
It's not like
position?
about pedagogy.
What does it mean to have your position freaked? Like how in a world of fluid
To escape
subjectivity-
your historical and specific embodiment, like the way that your body has
Okay,
been shaped.
how can whiteness as something that is dominant in power escape its embodiment?
So just because something is dominant in power doesn't mean that it can't escape its embodiment. Our argument is that it reconstitutes what it means
Okay,
to be white.
I'm sending the doc. It's one off case. It says, let me know when everyone's ready.
Are we starting on case?
How's that? Actually, I'll start on their underview thing, the preamp.
Let me yell at it. Yeah, right.
Is everybody ready? A call for the end of the world right here, right now. Wilderson 02. Civil society is not a terrain for black subjects, couldn't wages, and wages are white. The blacks took itself to have a growing white activists. The prison abolition movement has no theory in the wage totality, but it's like no other. Body functions as a repository for complete disorder. Blackness is the site of the absolute dereliction at the level of the real for magnetizing the world. The black body functions as a map of gratuitous violence across violence, which civil society is impossible. The level is symbolic for blackness, generates no history, it passes without heritage. A level without imaginary purposes, rape says black purposes, prison says black forever, says AIDS says black, then even the phobic gender object, black liberation, and functions of negative dialect of politics, refusal to reform a program of complete disorder. One must embrace disorder in politics, or underwent by desire to take this country down. Political movements today is marked by negrophobic genesis. Only black race could be more coherent or not come at all through. The state says the trade of the work of prison abolition. The work will fail, for it is always a work of position of inherence on behalf of the position of incoherence of the black side of the black side of the with the incoherence of civil war, which becomes blackness a politically enabling site. And there are no lines of flight that police cars do not drag the bodies of black women along. There is no place where black bodies are disassociated with the side economy from the danger of the minds of police, where there are mothers, children, naked, crying, or begging, armed, short, tall, fat, or skinny, or in between any of these categories. This is the side of becoming for the black death that extends to a horizon of death. Smith 15. Every police car is a bit of slave ship, and a black mother was caught in a military police operation, noting the resonance between her and Freddie Gray. We live on the horizon, the death that disintegrates black bodies into recognizable, the lethal police rise, follow a line of fighting deterrorization that genealogy takes us back to slavery, the police violence, inscribes blackness on the body, mocking the black spaces of expendable discourses of anti-blackness from state practices, and violence that produce a horizon of black death. The interplay between violence and the body precedes the meaning and access of representation. Bodies are violated and coded with meaning. And Saldana's invocation of a delusion faciality overlooks the ontological gap between what is socially constructed and that is what's beyond our social construction. As such, she overlooks an inherent contradiction at the heart of anti-racist politics. Instead of pretending this contradiction can be dissolved, the alternative recognizes the inevitability of such trappings of race. Kobashi 9. By invoking faciality, Saldana falls into a conceptual trap. Faciality goes beyond the dialectic, transcending back in what is ontological and immanence, a transcendence that Saldana never quite comes to term with the gap between what is socially constructed and what is little beyond. He speaks of the need for better organizing politically, provides little basis for political action. It's the power of race, as he claims, is beyond the capacity of social recognition to create it, and also beyond the capacity of social recognition to change it. Well, we need to be the inherent contradiction of believing to freak the conventional practices, to go beyond the conventional. It is not more effective to embrace the paradox than to believe that what can be solved. I have no quarrel with Saldana's political justice with the theoretical path by which she achieves in the bookends by reproducing rather than escaping contradiction of the challenges of race. And blackness is categorically outside the categories of face or subjectivity and functions as an abject outside that constitutes the grid of faciality itself. Call 15. Faciality is localized around the crescent fields account for the manner in which the black face is constructed that depend on prior violence against the black face, continue repressed by the whiteness is parasitically and unilaterally related to blackness and dependent in eradication of blackness. Racism is cruelty in the system is equal by incompetence and naivete in the understanding which subsumes all bodies in the heading of deviant whiteness. And against the loose, I suggest a critique which recognizes the black and white antagonism. The white man is anointed in Christ in order to live the violent death of the black man. And we see spectators flee the scene while black spectators are shameful, unable to escape the violence of the scene. We watch a pool of black blood rush to the way of the light, starting the reality of anti-black violence over again illusionary whiteness. The recognition which the loser presses sets the scene of the film running backwards. And civil society is parasitic on savage suffering. It forces the savage to enable the very violence that makes settler coherent in the first place. Wilderson 10. The meta-commenters on the savage ontology attribute the stabilization of universe to the settler. The task of the glory seeks to distinguish power in the scheme of the savage commentary from power, and the settler's sovereignty. The manifestation of the settler's sovereign powers differ from settler power and asserts supreme dominance over the universe. Native power and its legitimation, reconviction, and hegemony. In civil society, the constituted native subject native sovereignty consists not only of human but all animate and inanimate creatures. These index declaring the reconcilability between the settler of the savage and that of the savage. The imposition of civil society on the native body politic is both devastating, parasitic, and dangerous. It cripples the ability of the native people to think their bodies in subject relation through the rubrics of their own cultural imagery. The settler civil society feeds off this member. Settlers do not develop a sense of those societies able to feed upon condition which Indians now compose of imaginary centuries old conflict, and the alternatives to convert the terror of anti-blackness. It may not speak to the particular of the act, but blackness can confront the totality. Section 10. Obscuring the structural position of the category of blackness while every analysis attempts to understand the conflicting racial machinations of the racial state without accomplishing for blackness does not mean simply listening to a channel of equivalence. Blackness is not a representative reality of the racial formation, but does relate to the totality. Every attempt to defend the rights and liberties of the latest victims of state repression will fail to make sure the same case without blacks on board. The only viable political option is and the only effective defense against intensifying fire. I knew that no matter how far home I traveled, I would never be able to leave my past behind. Terror was captivity without the possibility of light, inescapable violence, precarious life. There was no going back to time or phrase beyond slavery. And the one I see in any perm for close to the possibility of radical questioning about the ethicality of civil society by structurally adjusting the body through political action that ceases to be inclusive. The act's starting point places the black body in a psychologically traumatic dialectic state of abandonment that closes black liberation. If we win, their scholarship produces structural violence as an independent reason to vote negative. Wilderson 10. If the position of black is the paradigm of policy in the world, then in this banishment from the humans to found, in the emancipation of subconscious allies, is not restricted policy under legislation or conservative action. Settler master slaves are most salient empirically based, rejoined leaders in the wrong direction. All of God mystifies the question for the world of facts and empirical markers of change which could turn their head. Underlying power diagrams of policy debates would be a rubric. I'm calling the question the grammar of suffering, the subject logic whereby subject whose position is arrived at. Our analysis cannot be approached through the rubric of gains or reversal of struggle of civil society, not until the interlocutor explains how the slave of the world, the onus on one who argues the distinction between slaveness and blackness. Thus the role of the valid is to interrogate the one who sees scholarship prior to the consequences of the plan. This means they do not get to weigh the case. We question their starting point on case. Overview to the case debate, they have warranted why Soldan's methodology is good, but that's not sufficient enough to take insofar as they just win that their method is good, analysis is good, it's not a reason, and insofar that it justifies comparative worlds, because if we win links to their method arguments of reason as to why it's offensive reason to negate. Now on the underview, their counter at 1, this card of power tag doesn't have any warrant for how becoming escapes the structural antagonism of the middle passage, or even how becoming is accessible to the black body, and 2, their internal warrant is how ontology reduces blackness to a historical condition. This isn't a problem with the theory of Afro-racism, but rather the world being anti-black. Don't blame Wilderson for the middle passages. Historical confinement of blackness to slavery, Brady 15. When one says ontology destroys the agency, they mean the theory of social death as a material history that's locked inside a possibility. Afro-pets not positive death sentence. While blackness could be recognized as the world's death sentence as a structure and condition for black life, the theory versus the unbraceable aspect of blackness. The question of suffering, how to name the violence, is not a derogation of black suffering to suffering, but a desire to speak. Black suffering as a site of education and chaotic illegibility is the MO of colonial power. Young 13. The frontiers of occupied territories are elastic and constant transformation. The cartography of imagining inherited from political spatiality, the ancient state of splinter. These borders are dynamic, constantly flowing. Anarchy, geography, acting outside the law can hope to be said the contrary. To injure the expanding settler society, the power of the state is examined by the rhizomatic nature of settlement and the unrelated process of violent disposition. The unpredictable frontiers, exploited chaos, supports the promotion of complexity to abstract acts of domination through constructive blurring. Settler sovereignty is established through chaotic acts of expansion. And the notion of staging a flight to an understanding of anti-blackness is an independent reason to vote neg. This is the opposite of some forms of surrender to blackness, is the capitulation of the white voyeuristic drive. Blackness becomes not the focal point of the drive, but the total liberation, but instead the prime fetish object of our time. Farley 97. Whiteness is not a colorless way of feeling pleasure about one's body. The black body needed to fulfill this desire for rage pleasure in a colonial world. The white body is a form of desire. The black body is a form of pleasure. The color is comprised of many rules and symbolism in race relations. Whiteness is a specific pleasure. The black body is a fetish object. The low participates in these same blackness has become a masochist's form of pleasure. And the performance of the one I see has to be rejected in white spaces. Whiteness has to be created and recreated over and over. The pleasure and process of whiteness recreation found through production, circulation, and consumption of the images and realities found out white and color in society. And what we call race debates have developed into intellectual and rhetorical episodes of Shirley Temple and Mr. Bojangles. Farley 97. Living in a colorblind society experiences a moment of rebirth a million times. The coloring like cousins loose from our humanity. The white identity is maintained by decorating black bodies with disdain over and over again. The image of the black is to be a ubiquitous white return and return again to the fetish in order to satisfy self-created urge. So whiteness composes itself out of images of blackness. Whiteness is a pleasure that is woven itself to all aspects in culture and our identities. And there is a reason why white people do drugs for fun. It is not a reprieve from their own sense, but rather away from the imaginative. It's a toy, which is exactly what the one I see does. And 2, their concession that things like subjectivity is always fluid necessarily denies that the static object that black men pose in subjectivity, which means that all of the Wilderson 2 evidence has a warrant that specifically denies that their implication that things can be changed. And 3, insofar as they've conceded that their form exists in civil society, can never escape it, means that it's continually parasitic. Now on the presumption arguments really quickly, insofar as there's not a justification for a presumption, just say that affirmative is harder, which means that this is not a reason as to what you should vote F. You should vote F.
You read everything, right? Cool. Okay, everyone's good? The first card relies on a psychoanalytic warrant that's built from Fanon's theory, right?
Fanonian theory, but also Lacanian theory too.
Right, but Fanon's research built on psychoanalysis,
Sure.
which found his theory. So
Yeah.
why does the psychoanalysis that occurred 70 years ago still apply in 2019? given
So
that
the
everyone-
argument is based an analytic claim about the way that whiteness operates in relationship to blackness. Psychoanalysis is not the only warrant for ontology.
Well, my question is not what psychoanalysis is, but
Yeah.
rather why the psychoanalysis research that was conducted in the 1950s applies
Okay, so
70
you have
years
not
later.
disproven that this theory is bad and that this research is bad. So insofar,
I'm just
no,
asking
I know.
what the
Everyone watched this debate. It happened an hour ago. You have not proven why the psychoanalysis research is bad, just that it is old. Being old does not deny the truth claim that Fanon
I'm
makes.
just asking why it still applies.
Because if you had not contested the thesis level
Yeah,
about what the
okay.
psychoanalytic claim means,
Because
that means it is still similarly true.
The case,
Sure.
the Farley 2 evidence, what is the implication of this?
Which one?
The 2.
The second one that I read?
Yes.
Sure. So the argument is that white people in spaces of whiteness derive parasitic pleasure from entering and discussing and
Okay, why is that
playing
reason
with
I'm,
imagery.
like, that seems to be...
Yeah, no, it denies your method.
Oh, wow.
Your method says that we should freak whiteness. However, this card impact turns out and says that whiteness enjoys being freaked because it allows them to feel uncomfortable,
Why-
which is a fetishization.
Yeah, so why is this evidence at all in the context of our argument?
So the argument is that white people fetishize blackness and it becomes an object that they enjoy, i.e. fetishization and anger are two sides of the same oppressive coin, and says that the one I see is an insatiation of trying to freak whiteness that they enjoy.
Okay, the alternative is a floating pick.
No.
It's uncondo, right?
Yeah.
So what is the distinction between the alt and the aft? Like, why does confronting the terror of anti-blackness
The one I
exclude?
see, the alternative says that you have to recognize blackness as something that is a pathology and something that cannot be sort of reworked by
How do we
anything.
do that?
End of the world.
Yeah, like, what does that look like?
Like the end of the world. We do not have the grammar to explain what a world looks like that is not anti-black.
Okay, the crawl evidence, these seem to be generic to loose indites. Why does it apply to Saldana?
So the idea of things like fluidity and subjectivity being something that is fluid contradicts or...
This is about faciality, not about fluidity.
Yeah, I know. But this theory of the Kobayashi 9 article is in specific
Well, I'm asking
response
about
to
the
Saldana.
crawl evidence.
The Smith evidence?
The crawl, K-R-A-L.
Oh, yeah. So that argument about faciality and the machine of faciality is the wrong register in which to understand how race relations play out in civil society, i.e. rather than categorizing into people into groups as a result of things like phenotype and having relationship as a that,
Yes.
everything is calculated in relationship to blackness.
Different case, or a different question. What is a white space?
Civil society.
Okay, so what is civil society?
The world as it coheres in a structure of anti-blackness.
Wait, so how can the alternative occur? Like, there would be an alternative world, right? Even if there's not a grammar to explain what that world would look like, but there would be another world.
The alternative calls for an end of this world.
End of this world and the creation of a new one. Which we
I
cannot
wouldn't even
explain.
I would not even stipulate it that far. It just says that the necessary antidote to anti-blackness in the status quo is the end of the world.
What is the implication of this argument that's like comparative worlds links to the method, so it's still
So
reason
you,
like if I try to like delink, what is this about?
if you when the resolution is true because we've proven it true, there's no justification in the 1AC why proving the resolution true is sufficient to affirm, which means that any risk that the 1AC's scholarship is bad is a reason as to why you negate.
The Kobayashi evidence just seems defensive. It just says like Saldana doesn't go, like he doesn't quite explain something, but why is that like?
No, the
offense for you?
Kobayashi argument says that Saldana contradicts, he can't come to terms with the relationship between blackness and faciality, which leads to a paradox, i.e. the endless affirmation of race as something that can be changed cannot speak to a position that is static in time.
Okay, so presumes ontology.
Not necessarily, I don't
Wait,
think
how
you
can blackness be static? Ontology is false.
Even if we don't win ontology, theoretically, things like racism still could disprove Saldana's
But
theory,
why-
which the
but-
Kobayashi 9
okay.
card says. Like it's not, I don't even think Kobe. Never mind. Remaining?
Yeah. I said it. Orders AFK. The order will start with a overview on the app.
Give me 1 second. I'll let you know.
On the app, it's just like their arguments top down.
You sent it?
Yeah. And it will start with the can't wait case right after I explain the overview. Are you all good?
No. Yeah.
Just let me know. Everybody good?
Here's our thesis. The faciality machine starts with the European man is the origin to which all other bodies are positioned based on degrees of demons. For example, straightaway females be close to the center and disabled black women. Thus, solved on a faciality operates by lens incorporation. The machine can issue race means that one side is oriented to the cogs and wheels, i.e. subject to the proper mindset. Bodies reproduce response with the determined motions of the world of understanding. You can track the faciality machine, which is achieved by creating eruptions. How bodies relate to the world by machines are emerging in fluid. They're constantly evolving, can only be stable by channeling, controlling the flows of acting methods psychedelics through public health influence machine quantities by detouralizing risk and thousands of light away from this faciality machine. Our method of psychedelics transforms bodies to molecular level to spectacular exhibitions of different structures fundamentally change affect how the body relates to things, space, and time itself in the app property. So you can't weigh the case, but there's no consequence to the plan. It's just how the app happens, so you can't interrogate it prior. The method is literally the affirmative, presumes that it's a policymaker, not the young evidence point the app's about a relation to everything, which includes land. It takes on any kind of their subtle arguments, which you can apply to all their arguments about redness, because the relationality is literally our relation to everything. It's not just bodies, but it's also things like land, which means to recognize we have some kind of we have some deadness to engage with people. B1 is that the alt doesn't solve, it's about blackness, which means we shouldn't resolve this argument. Now that for all the evidence, our lines of fight are not white, but are used to destroy whiteness. And presumes that reading orthodox news about lines of fight, but the solved on evidence is in the context of the way that we can use whiteness to destroy itself, and we can use black, we can use other people of color can engage in lines of fight that destroy whiteness. Now the whiteness recreation argument, you are white, so if anything, you should affirm on this. White spaces will not go with because of the alternative, and if they do that, just like the fermentation, because the fermentation would literally be a line of flight, i.e. virtual possibilities that cannot be explained, which is exactly what the alternative is. Now that for all the two evidence, the apple is not about whiteness, but it's about blackness, which means it doesn't apply to it. We do not make an argument about fetishization or why we should focus on blackness. Now that the Afro say white people do drugs for fun, this is just an assertion. We treat as public health, which means they are not doing it for fun. You say the consumption of subjectivity denies a static object. That presumes you've went on told you also concedes subjectivity on the can interview. You say there's no warrant for why corner escapes the middle passage. There's a direct warrant. Instead, it conceptualizes that the middle passage happens, but it can always be changed in the future because they attach the middle passage to the black body, which is a permanent form of sad affect. They say the Brady evidence, but if we went on ontology is false, it takes out this card. We shouldn't use that theory if it's false, not the kid. First is an independent reason about affirmative based on the one's performance, not like Afro-pessimism, and their performance objected by blackness is always theoretical, is the violence of the affirmative purpose of Afro-pessimism. They commodify blackness as a position of should be value. You should feel really weird about voting for a white person who argues that we should end the world and resist white people, not black people, not black debaters reading Afro-pessimism. Here's the question of who positions blackness in the war on anti-black, and the war on whiteness. Independent voter for inclusion, which is necessary at the very structure of the activity. Church and one see perm. Do both cross place on one Afro-pessimism cannot answer the question of mixed race, white passing bodies and quarter good. Only if you can explain that race is not given to the abstract, but determined through affective relationships. There's no black or white, but only bodies are charged to mean evil or good. Even if ontology is a better theory of blackness, that doesn't make our theory incompatible. And the net benefit is being able to explain the gaps in between it, not cross by sold on two in corner. Historical events like slavery pretty sad affect the locked in black identity, but the all chooses to see to the power of whiteness and closing off lines of light away from that sad affect. It just means blackness can be reconstituted in future relationships. The middle passage one state now the ontology debate 1% race is false means the case is passive dissent. Their alternative reads false nihilism that actually prevents the future refers to any instance of historical responses and justify ontology of identity. Psychoanalysis during the 8-point psychoanalysis is false, not generalizable since grounded in Fenon's research, and the 50CX has continued to be embarrassing. It's also not falsifiable. It relies on independent observation of internal beliefs reject not verifiable theories. You prefer social science. We can explain patterns between causal factors. People there's an F for the permutation, which is the app method is falsifiable. Second is double the historical instance of violence like nail alienation, prove ontology, which case in contingent events and purposes disprove ontology since the same anti-black violence can be removed the event. Empirical attempts to prove the freedoms, borough suffrage, the huge number of black politicians. Something has changed. Now the critique proper. The end of the world arguments prove the absence. We are not tied to any particular world. Rather, lines of flight are literally alternative possibilities. Now, even if I lose ontology, you should still vote on the permutation of an argument explained above. Now, the Wilderson evidence is the same evidence being hereditary. It relies on the concept of psychoanalysis that is from 70 years ago. That is not explained now. For example, a lot of people in 1950 would say that white and black people should not get married, but that has obviously changed now. Second is that the app is not all about operating within civil society, rather the affirmative procedure outside the state. All examples of the card presume that the app doesn't state, so it dumps all their arguments on the Smith evidence there. All their delusion answers are generic indicts to Deleuze, but not a particular racialized method, which presumes that we defend static or state lines of fights. Read the card. It says it informs state practices violence, which presumes states. Now, there's two link terms because they assume a false relationship of lines of fight in delusion. Our concept of lines of fight, 8 points more than just white people who can free blindness, i.e. black people engage in lines of fight. B1, all people of color can engage in lines of fight. People in those lines of fight collapse whiteness. That's also the evidence. C points at work. It's just such a permutation because it means that they have an accurate theory of blackness and we have an accurate theory of everything else. Now, the Kobayashi evidence is just defense, not offense. Blackness is clearly limited faciality and that raises change. Second, it assumes trying to access a political objective through the average great potential without social construction through relevance caused by the argument about lines of fight. Now, the alternative permutation don't like to the affirmative alternative. All other compared to in all other instances in benefits being able to take the action of the affirmative and be able to explain it, be able to explain the in between. So the Wilderson evidence, the app explains better since we explain native relations. That was the argument about how native people can interact with the last Wilderson evidence. The app is the opposite of inclusivity, rather recognize the faciality machine operates by relentless incorporation. That's the Salt on one evidence.
Perm text.
Perm do both in the doc, and then
Perm line.
F, yeah, all other instances.
K case, starting on OB and then going top down.
Sorry, let me get it. Okay. Page. Yeah, I'm good.
Is everybody good? Oh, there's one new card. Send it. Okay, let me know when everyone's good.
Is the document just one card?
Yeah, I didn't send it in the doc, I just sent it in the body of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Where's the card on?
the second office. Let me know when everyone's ready. Everyone good? Blackness is the only identity characterized by absolute death. Blackness is subject without subjectivity, and social death operates to make blackness fungible and antagonistic towards civil society. Focus on other contingent symptoms of violence, like the 1AC, rather than the ontological position of the black body as a symptom-led solution, because blackness in slavery operates as a primal signifier for other deviant and marked bodies, which controls solvency. There's a reason we have women's rights, gay rights, but black people in here in civil rights, because other populations are granted more controlled transition, while blackness has always been reduced to zero, even in the most radical and liberal movements, which proves the ass coalitional politics doesn't solve. Their emancipatory discourse is born from the death of the slave. Only through revealing the grammar of suffering and fungibility of the slave can we disarticulate the very meaning of the world itself, which proves that the alternative solves the case. You can imagine a world in which discrimination vis-a-vis the app doesn't exist, but you cannot imagine a world in which anti-blackness is gone, because it's the foundation of the world itself. Answers all their state bad arguments because it proves that civil society transcends the political and is on the social too. The app is always wedded to notions of modernity continuing. The only solvency that comes from the focus on the abjections of blackness, which only the alternative can solve, is the CGS application will be the till the 2AR dies on. But ask yourself what their performance does to change the position of blackness already incarcerated. Only the end of the world can solve. Now there should be a big red flag that they have no game on the link debate. There are three conceded links. One is the Kobayashi evidence. They cannot reconcile the ontological gap between black death and social life, because black death always exists in a structural antagonism that puts us in self-enslavement. The notion of faciality falls into whiteness's trap of attempting to translate black-white divide, but cannot reconcile any basis between the inherent contradiction of their social conjunction to any capacity to change it. Freaking whiteness does not necessarily go beyond the conventional anti-blackness. There's no internal link explanation to how they rectify an inherent tradition, which proves the terminal solvency deficit. And two is the land grabs argument on case. Now they say that it's a question of effective relationship premise to land grab, but they've conceded that this is a dissent to their method of things like faciality, i.e. trying to change or rupture or have these things are fluid is allowed for things like colonies to justify land in the first place. I.e. settlers defined their race as a new thing every single time in order to justify an authentic claim to the land. Or white people were able to say that, oh, I'm not to deny their whiteness in order to justify, which means that even if their method is not only about whiteness or blackness, it allows for the justification and perpetuation of racism. And then lastly is the conceded argument that says the walking mile of my shoes this side. White people love being freaked out. The fetishization of racial difference affirms their positionality. The 1AC is the 1AC seems radical, but once the high is gone and the rave is over, racism still continues. It is a libidinal insofar as it considered the psychoanalytic warrants, which I'll extend below, it proves that white people will enjoy their method because freaking out is a form of tokenization and fetishization that they do. They've also considered the alternative solves embracing the pathological being of blackness despite its demonization isn't a concession to civil society, but a giant middle finger to the white slave master that produces necessary lines of life. They talk about Sexton says that black social life is lived within social death, so any examples of Maroonish, Freedmansboro, or Jazz exist outside the terrain of civil society. They don't access any new forms of subjectivity for the black body, but leaning into blackness at least generates the revolutionary zeitgeist necessary to produce alternative modes of taking down the white human, which solves the entirety of the case. Now, I've not put a single piece of offense on the case, which means I'll answer on the line by line. Line by line? They say non-black Afro-pessimism is a voting issue. You should group these arguments in the justification for the firm. One is an informed recognition. So far as we on our method is true, and ontology is true, it is the only ethical response in response to whites and civil society's ethicality, which means that even if it's questionable, it is the only option insofar as Afro-pessimism is true. And then two, this is, they say, the justification for incoherence. However, they've considered that whiteness is a structure of power, which means that all the links are reasons as to why the 1AC's performance is necessary and has a parasitic attachment to the status quo, which means that you should reject it in every instance. The permutation is not a form of incoherence, but a form of being a junior partner in civil society. Now, they say who positions include, however, they've considered the Sexton 10 arguments that says that blackness cannot speak to the particularities of every single instantiation of racial difference, but can speak to the totality, i.e. confronting blackness as a prerequisite to understanding how things like gender or sexuality interplay, which means that it controls the gaps argument. It answers the net benefit to the perm because it proves that analysis of blackness must come first and can explain, i.e. mixed people are punished in relationship in proximity to the relationship to blackness, or black men are punished disproportionately because they're seen as a threat and blackness is always criminalized, which also answers their argument. Now, on the ontology debate, they've considered an additional warrant, which I offered to say during process, but they shut me down. First is the constitutive ethics justification, which means that if we prove that their theory is reliant on black death, independent of the psychoanalysis debate, it's reason as to why you vote down. And two, best studies prove the psychoanalysis theory, Posado 10. 3, wanting orders related to neural autonomy to left and right, human share with all pre-existing animals, core basic power, humans involved in distinct functional areas, outside the neocredit distinct language system, the left hemisphere, the right brain, has no further ties to the emotional limbic system, the intellectual, the left brain, operate separately, existing or on the limbic emotions, the left quarter function with the concept of more of real social codes in any imaginary limbic system, function with the real gender correspondence with the real imaginary symbolic, or does the brain to the limbic system, the right hemisphere, left hemisphere, confined research on the mental growth towards the neurocortex of child, Lacan theory, and the mirror stage of neuroception of the right brain and the right intuitive between the mother and child of the first use life profoundly shapes emotional and preserved pathways, mark the cardinal pathways, which produces psychoanalytic arguments. Now, on their argument about Lacan being old, just because people say that gay marriage is, people say that the different things about marriage is better now does not disprove ontology. They've not spoken to the metaphysical position of blackness as something that subject, always arbitrarily subject to domination. They have not won any legal progress or progress in civil society just because people say that, oh, black and white people should get married now. It's not an instantiation of progress. It's just social norms. It doesn't choose a metaphysical positioning of blackness as something that is always subject to violence, which only our evidence indicts. Now, on the arguments, on the permutation, one, no perm, one, our framework, our proof methodology comes first. The debate is not a question of competition to the plain and alternative, but whether the affirmative has any epistemic foundation to their understanding of the world that isn't infected by anti-blackness in order to ideologically sustain the system. If we in a link to why their assumptions are anti-black, vote neg, even if they win the perm or the old fails, and two, our starting points are mutually exclusive. The one is this question about making reforms within and whiteness more accessible is incompatible with the one is this question about the ethicality of civil society. You question the requires the alienation of the black body, while ours refuses to affirm your advocacy, proves any perm is severance or intrinsic. Both are voting issues because the extra claims that moods want to see often and severance of discount and links are discount to the perm. Even having 1% risk of link is a reason to reject the permutation, and so on. They consider the alternative solves all of the case with no dissent, which is the reason that's why you vote on the alternative. And a combination of on the first now group their link to your argument that say it's more than just blackness is relying on a false theory and a false dichotomy of how blackness operates. And so far as we one that explains the particularity, i.e. looking through things like you said, looking through structural violence through a relationship that begins with blackness, a sequencing precedent proves that the alternative comes first, that the permutation can not overcome on the case. Their notion of fluid subjectivity is the final nail in their coffin. The idea that things that are always fluid and changing is what allows people to justify themselves, i.e. things like never have to have a static notion of things like racism or how ontology focus comes first. Now, insofar as they can see the psychoanalytic warrants and the constitutive ethic claim that says that blackness is metaphysically positioned in a position that is always subject to violence and recess to why you negate on face. Their subjectivity cannot account for the positionality of the slave in something that's always a priori marked as criminal, which also answers the subjectivity claim as a terminal defense to the one in C, because it proves that their psychedelics cannot change. Look, the round breaks down pretty simply. The 1AR do not have any offense on the Afro-Pest debate, which means that if you think that there's a risk of the link and that the alternative solves the case, it's a reason as to why you vote negative.
I had, it was like 130. The extended warrant for ontology is the psychoanalysis argument.
2. Constitutive ethics and psychoanalysis.
What's the constitutive ethics argument?
If your life is dependent on black suffering, then you do not deserve to live.
Why is that a warrant for ontology? That's just a link, right?
Not really, because
Why is that a warrant for ontology?
it's a way of understanding and theorizing about society as beyond the psychic terrain, i.e. if our notion of the world is infected by anti-blackness, then the world does not deserve to exist.
Okay, that seems... The K will be the psychoanalysis arguments, and then the psychoanalysis argument, then the K proper.
Case, then that, or?
Yeah, the case then.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody is good?
Bodies are defined by their effective relations to one another, and there's no one concept of what it means to be a body. Rather, it's always defined by the connections that are made with specific places and specific people and other specific bodies. There's no one metaphysical conception of what it means to be a body, but rather it's always defined by its particular relations, which has been the conceded thesis claim. Their only arguments that fluid subjectivity is the final nail. Like, there's a static notion of ontology that presumes that they've won the ontology argument. The first is there's an obvious direct clash between all their extended ontology arguments and the arguments we were making about fluid subjectivity. You should err F in the issue because they've conceded the corner evidence. All of our arguments about why they are choosing to attach blackness to a specific relation that has occurred throughout history. They've chosen to attach blackness to a sad affect that was produced at a specific point in history, but that was always the possibility of changing because that is an example of affect that was produced, i.e. the connection between the black body and the slave trade is something they choose to affix permanently that they've claimed is metaphysical, but rather there's always defined by potential relations, which is our conceded subjectivity fluid argument. Now you can extend the method of the affirmative to something that is good. They have not contested any of our arguments, which is that the method of psychedelics freak whiteness because it changes the molecular level how we relate to each other, which are instances of lines of light that destroy whiteness because it creates a bunch of different races and no longer races bodies a certain way in relation to the faciality machine. You say the disadvantage of the method because fluidity justifies claiming man, but the disadvantage of the method, so my method is outweighed by my explanation, which is that we are connected to the land per our affectivity claims, i.e. it's not just bodies interacting with each other, but even things like the land and space and technology itself, which proves that affectivity includes recognition of things like settler colonialism. Now, you say once the high is gone, racism so continues, but this argument is just not responsive to arguments. It is not only white people that engage in psychedelics, rather it is every person of color, anyone who is able to freak whiteness, which is more than just white people themselves. Okay. You said I didn't go for any offense, but you conceded a link turn, which is that lines of flight away from whiteness are literally virtual possibilities of creating alternative worlds, which is exactly what the alternative is, which means I just need to win that alternative doesn't solve the case, and there's a reason why you would affirm, i.e. the idea is that lines of flight should understand something that is not grounded in the world the way it is constituted now, but rather it builds upon an implicit and inexplicable connection, which was conceded often. So those lines of flight, there are things that collapse whiteness, which means the alternative is the exact same thing as the affirmative, because it is the ability to engage in the creation of new possibilities, i.e. new worlds, which is the reason why the affirmative link turns a critique was conceded that way in duration, because it means we can always create new possibilities for a world, but their alternative does not explain what we do past not being able to explain what blackness is. Also, the subjectivity fluid should end the ontology debate, and I'll go to the ontology debate proper. The alt case argument. The all can solve the case since they cannot resolve the positioning of other races, even if they're junior partners. That doesn't explain how those junior partners would interact with one another, how the race relations would be within other races, even if the relationality between whiteness in them and blackness in them, there are still interstices that only my theory can explain, which is the reason why you don't solve the case. Now, the ontology argument. The Pizzato evidence is not a real argument, considering that you conceded that psychoanalysis is not falsifiable, since we cannot prove something is true or false as it's an internal belief. The Pizzato evidence does a good job of explaining what psychoanalysis is in the sections of the brain, but it doesn't explain why psychoanalysis is something that is verifiable, but just that there has been studies that are psychoanalytic that are examples that obviously does not disprove our claim, which is that it's impossible to verify whether or not someone has a psychoanalytic drive, even if you don't think this argument is the best in the world. It was completely conceded. They did not make an argument about why it is not falsifiable. You also conceded the argument that his research is super old. You say that just because people say different things about merits, that doesn't deny my claim. My argument is that it's shifted since then because there's been by a bunch of different other psychoanalytic things. So there's a 1% risk and that's always not true. You can vote on the link turn either way. Good day.